Imagine hanging out with someone. There is always that moment where you are not saying anything and the other person is not saying anything either. And suddenly awkwardness creeps in and you start to feel uncomfortable. For some weird reasons, I always thought that silence is bad in conversations. The question is, why is that moment uncomfortable? That silence moment uncomfortable? Why does it seem uncomfortable and awkward? See, we live in a world now where everything is kind of fast-paced, from swiping, from scrolling, and jumping from one thing to the next. It's like we are used to the noise, and now silence is uncomfortable. And I think that a lot of it also have to do with our own insecurities. It's like when things get quiet, we are left alone with our own thoughts, and suddenly we are asking ourselves, am I weird? Do I seem smart enough to this person? And all that, right? But like I always say, you don't have to say anything if you don't have anything to say. You simply have to be genuinely present until something comes up for you to say. Because in my experience, the more you try to fixate on the next smart thing you have to say, the more out of reach the idea seems to be. And that is probably the reason why you see a lot of people, when they're hanging out with someone, they manipulate their phone. They just kind of remove their phone and look at it, doing some weird stuff with it. They are not looking at the time, they are not looking at messages, they are just swiping it for the sake of scrolling it, because they cannot just simply deal with the silent moment in that conversation, right? Forget about the part that it is bad to manipulate your phone when you are with someone, but the reason why people do that is because there is always that moment where they feel uncomfortable or discomfort with the silent moment, and now they think they want to just occupy or fill that time with swiping their phone. So how do you now become comfortable in silence, no matter where you are or who you are hanging out with? First of all, the reason why you feel uncomfortable or discomfort in silence or awkward in silence is because you don't really know how important silence is in conversations. And for you to be comfortable in silence in conversations, you have to just know how important it is. In Japan, there is this concept called ma, which means the pause, the space in between, is just as important as the sound, which means that without the silence, there would be no room to really appreciate the words and the simple moment in conversations, right? Think about it. Instead of trying to fill every gap in your conversation, just sit back and listen. And the second important thing about silence in conversation is it gives us time to really process that conversation. What have you talked about? How far have you come in the conversation? And this way it helps you remember what you've talked about even after that conversation. Conversations today are really fast-paced and surface level. That is why sometimes when you talk with someone, you kind of forget what you talk about. And for me, silence brings calmness and depth to the conversation. Silence also helps you capture the world around you. It gives us time to really appreciate the world around you. I mean, just look around you, your immediate environment. When you are walking with someone, that moment of silence, you look around you and you appreciate the moment. That moment, you capture that memory, and it is something that you cannot do if you are continuously maybe talking, right? So the next time you are in a conversation with someone, or maybe the next time you are in a room with someone and there's that space of silence, you should challenge yourself to lean into the silence and see what it reveals to you. You might just find out that the less you try to control every second, the more easier and natural conversations will be. So how do you actually get comfortable with silence? Just be. Stay in silence instead of running from it. You don't have to feel the space. And when you give yourself that freedom, you will realize something. The need to perform fades away. You are no longer trapped in this race to say the perfect thing. You are just there, fully yourself.